our dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. In today's edition, we are going to talk about the visit by the Uzbek president to Egypt and his meetings with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. And President al-Sisi and the Uzbek counterpart held a joint press conference following their talks at Al Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace. During the press conference, the president stressed the importance of cooperating to combat terrorism and extremism. More details.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said on Tuesday that he and his Uzbek counterpart agree on the importance of cooperating to combat terrorism and extremism. Al-Sisi made the remarks at a press conference following a meeting at the Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace with the Uzbek president, who arrived in Cairo on Monday afternoon for a two-day visit, his first ever to the country. Al-Sisi hailed the role played by Egypt's Al-Azhar in promoting tolerant Islam and receiving Uzbek students seeking education at the Islamic institution. In a joint statement issued after the meeting, the presidents expressed deep concern about the spread of terrorism, which they described as one of the most dangerous threats to humanity. They condemned the use of religion to justify, support, or sponsor terrorism, affirming the importance of the role of the international community in coordinating to eliminate this phenomenon. Al-Sisi and his counterpart also called for uprooting terrorism networks and their safe havens and eliminating their infrastructure and financing channels. They also highlighted the need to combat attempts by extremist organizations to use the internet and social media to recruit people and create strife among the youth. For his part, the Uzbek president underlined the role played by Egypt's prestigious religious institutions, especially Al-Azhar, in combating extremist thoughts and attempts to link this thought with Islam. The two sides welcomed the expansion of cooperation between the religious institutions of Egypt and Uzbekistan in order to work on thwarting the spread of extremist thoughts. Egyptian and Uzbek cooperation in this regard would include establishing cooperation between Dar al-Ifta and the Uzbek Fatwa Center. The two sides will also discuss the participation of Uzbek imams and preachers in trainings organized by Dar al-Ifta. During the presser, the Uzbek president said he and President Sisi agreed on the importance of stabilizing the situation in Afghanistan and the need to maintain international assistance to the Afghan people.
And also on the Egyptian-Uzbek ties, International Cooperation Minister Rania Al-Mashat asserted the importance of the strong and deep, profound ties binding Egypt and Uzbekistan. She said it is important to go ahead with further expanding cooperation at all levels and on all fronts, serving the interests of both countries. During the meeting with Uzbek Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Investment and Industry, Al-Mashat stressed the keenness on holding the 7th session of the joint Egyptian-Uzbek Committee for Economic and Scientific and Technical Cooperation this year, which aims to strengthen the bilateral relations. More details in the following story.
A host of Egyptian private companies have signed 7 memorandums of understanding with the Uzbek government to form investment partnerships in the sectors of pharmaceuticals, spinning, weaving, energy, electricity, and healthcare. This came during the Egyptian-Uzbek Business Forum held on Saturday in Cairo, which saw the participation of various Egyptian and Uzbek businessmen working in the sectors of electronics industry, tourism, and electrical products. The forum, held ahead of the official visit of Uzbek president to Cairo on Sunday, witnessed the presentation of promotional offers on investment opportunities available in Egypt and Uzbekistan. During his visit, the Uzbek president attended a roundtable with businessmen in the presence of Minister of International Cooperation, Rania Al-Mashat. Al-Mashat expressed the country's aspiration for more joint work with Uzbekistan, stressing the importance of holding the joint business forum and the roundtable to enhance trade and investment cooperation between the two countries. The minister said the signed MOUs will enhance Egyptian-Uzbek economic ties and provide an opportunity for both sides to take advantage of investment opportunities and comparative advantages in various economic sectors, according to a statement issued by the International Cooperation Ministry. Currently, Al-Mashat said preparations are underway to hold the 7th session of the Egyptian-Uzbek Joint Committee for Economic, Scientific, and Technical Cooperation. by the end of the year. The next edition of the Egyptian Uzbek Business Forum is set to be held on the sidelines of the committee meeting.
And the U.S. First Lady Jill Biden will travel to Namibia and Kenya this week, part of Biden administration's efforts to strengthen ties in sub-Saharan Africa and regain trust amid growing influence from China in the region. In Namibia, the U.S. First Lady will focus on the role of young people in strengthening democracies, according to the senior administration official who previewed the trip on condition of anonymity. Meanwhile, in Kenya, Biden will draw attention to the food crisis caused by drought and by disruption of food exports from the war in Ukraine. Biden is expected to focus on women empowerment issues in both countries.
U.S. senior administration officials said that U.S. First Lady Jill Biden will visit Namibia and Kenya this week as the White House seeks an economic partnership with Africa, contrasting Chinese investment and food shortages caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The first senior White House official to visit the region since her husband, President Joe Biden, came to power, the 71-year-old community college professor will focus on hunger in the Horn of Africa and the empowerment of women and youth. The trip aims to build on the U.S. African Leaders Summit in Washington in December, when the president focused on food and global warming, as well as preparing for the next global health crisis after the COVID-19 outbreak. Biden opens a 5-day tour in Namibia on Wednesday and will meet the first ladies of both countries. In Kenya, she will draw attention to the Horn of Africa's worst drought in decades, which has left more than 20 million people with acute food shortages. Officials said her fact-finding mission will look at how climate change, compounded by the blocking of food exports during Russia's invasion of Ukraine, are worsening the crisis. Sub-Saharan Africa is the youngest and fastest-growing region in the world, with almost 70% of its people aged under 30. Experts project that a quarter of the global population will be African by 2050. China in the past decade has surpassed the United States on investing in the continent via highly visible infrastructure projects, often funded through loans that have totaled more than $120 billion since the start of the century.
And President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi held a joint press conference with visiting Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev following their talks in Cairo on Tuesday. President Sisi said that he highly valued the historical and brotherly ties between the two countries. Sisi added that Egypt is the first country that acknowledged Uzbekistan's independence and established diplomatic ties with it. President Sisi said that the talks discussed expanding ties in 9 promising fields. He said the talks also focus on the need to swiftly activate the Joint Cooperation Committee between the two sides. He said that they agreed over the two-state proposal to solve the Palestinian-Israeli crisis. For his part, the Uzbek president expressed appreciation for the hospitality he received in Egypt. He said that the talks witnessed a sharp and shared vision over the new republic in Egypt. Mirziyoyev also said that they both agreed to solidify the cooperation in security and logistical fields to fight terrorism. He said the Egyptian Uzbek people share the same religion and culture. He said they agreed to cooperate in the field of education. And ahead of the press conference, Sisi and Mirziyoyev, with the signing of a number of agreements and MOUs in the trade and investment industry, health and foreign affairs fields. Presidential spokesman Councillor Ahmed Fahmy earlier said that President Sisi's talks with the Uzbek president, also arrived on Monday in Cairo, aim to enhancing bilateral relations and expanding trade, investment and economic cooperation, as well as more cooperation to witness in the coming period. Fahmy added that the talks aims to coordinate over several regional and international issues of mutual concern. He said the Egyptian-Uzbek ties have witnessed great progress in the past years. The diplomatic relations between the two countries were established in 1992, and the Egyptian embassy in Uzbekistan was opened in 1993. Say that he and his Uzbek president agreed on the importance of cooperating to combat terrorism and extremism. Assisi made remarks at the press conference following their talks at Al-Ittihadiyya Presidential Palace. Assisi hailed the role played by Al-Azhar in promoting tolerant Islam and receiving Uzbek students seeking education at the Islamic institution. In the joint statement issued after the meeting, the presidents expressed deep concern about the spread of terrorism, and they described as one of the most dangerous threats to humanity. They condemned the use of religion to justify, support, or sponsor terrorism, affirming the importance of the role of the international community in coordinating to eliminate this phenomenon. Sisi and Medvedev also called on for uprooting terrorism networks and their safe havens and eliminating their infrastructure and their financing channels. The presidents also highlighted the need to combat attempts by the extremist organizations to use the internet and the social media to recruit people and create strife among the youth. Medvedev underlined the role played by Egypt's prestigious religious institutions, especially Al-Azhar, in combating extremist thought and attempts to link this thought with Islam. The two sides welcomed the expansion of cooperation between the religious institutions of Egypt and Uzbekistan in order to work on thwarting the spread of extremist thoughts. The Egyptian-Uzbek cooperation in this regard would include establishing cooperation between Dar al-Ifta and the Uzbek Fatwa Center. The two sides also discussed the participation of Uzbek imams and preachers in training organized by Dar al-Ifta. To shed more light, we are joined over the phone by Dr. Ahmed Mostafa, the president of the Asian Center for Strategic Studies. Dr. Mostafa, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Sir, would you please shed light on the importance of the visit by the Uzbek president to Egypt?
This time, there is importance for the central countries or Central Asian countries, and this is one of the most important things, just to make the president of Uzbekistan to pay a visit to Egypt. Central Asian countries has great importance in several files and issues in terms of anti-terrorism, in terms of, Uzbekistan also is one of the main countries that is exporting cotton. Also, it has a lot of natural resources. Uzbekistan needs a lot of infrastructure projects that the Egyptian businessmen can invest over there, just to have like a binational investment project that will return in a prosperous future for the two countries. Also, we have historical relations with Uzbekistan concerning, Bukhara, the city of Imam Bukhari. For all of such reasons came important issue to have such good relations with Uzbekistan in that regard.
Yes. Sir, also the president held talks with the Uzbek counterpart where they discussed a number of issues of common concern as well as a host of topics in light of the regional and international developments. Would you please shed light about the most important topics discussed by both leaders yesterday?
Uzbekistan is very important country, as I told you. In terms of location, it's a large country, but it's surrounded by some important countries in that respect that playing a greater role in the international arena and has a good relations with, in terms of, because, it was like USSR republic before. Also, it's a neighbor country to China, neighbor country to Afghanistan, neighbor country to Iran, and of course it has a good relations with Turkey. Therefore, Uzbekistan has a great significance in that respect, and all of which will enable us just to discuss several common topics in terms of, as I said before, the matter of anti-terrorism, because Uzbekistan, some of the Uzbeks were sent to Syria and Iraq, within or via ISIS or Al Qaeda, especially in the last decades. So therefore, this is an important issue to be discussed. Also, the religious issue, and as you mentioned in your report, having a good relations with Al Azhar because they have a good delegation here in Egypt.
Yeah.
Also, in terms of trade and investments, a lot of things could be discussed together because we can carry out a lot of mutual businesses, and even Egypt, we have a lot of things to offer to Uzbekistan. And I said that before several times in terms of, the cultural projects, the infrastructure, the digitization, and a lot of things that Uzbekistan, as a promising country, trying to get from several countries. Also, part of the countries, they are also in the Silk Road Initiative, this global Chinese project. Therefore, a lot of things could be discussed between the two countries.
Yeah. Also, the President Abdel Fattah Sisi and his visiting president, the President of Uzbekistan, discussed the issue of combating terrorism and extremism. Would you please shed light on this, and how do you assess here the role played by Al Azhar in combating these extremist thoughts?
Yeah, as you know, and as I told you before, Uzbekistan is one of the biggest Islamic countries, and also Egypt and Uzbekistan, they are in a group called the Group of Strategic Vision, Russia and Islamic World, and I'm a representative of Egypt in that respect for several years as of 2015. This initiative that made by President Putin in 2005 and continued so far. Also, Uzbekistan and Egypt, they are members of the OIC. Therefore, Al Azhar can play a greater role in just disseminating the right literature. This is away from the extremism and the fanaticism amid the youth over there, because I was in Russia and my boss graduated, and I had several friends from Uzbekistan, and I was going to the mosque over there. Some of those guys, they are eager to know more about Islam, but unfortunately, they got some fanatic resources that came from some countries, which is not belonging to the reality and the good and moderate Islam, as we know here in Egypt. Before Al Azhar, they have a greater role in this regard, and according to all such relations that I discussed previously, to maybe renew or to send or to help or to having like a mutual comprehension and giving bridges to Uzbekistan just to recorrect for some categories over there, especially the younger generation, the reality and the correct Islam according to whether Quran and Sunnah. Also, we can use the digitization. This is one of the most important projects that could bring a lot of revenues for Egypt in that respect, because they need all such, because most of the youth now, even in Uzbekistan, they are using the digital media and the mobile. We can use that in producing some sort of what's called programs or applications that can facilitate in Uzbek or in Russian language, because most of them, they know the Russian, how to learn the real Islam in this regard. And this is one of, maybe can be a joint project between the two governments, Al Azhar and some telecommunications company locally or in collaboration with some Russian companies to facilitate this issue. And this is one of the joint economic projects that could be made amid such entity.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Ahmed Mostafa, the director of the Asian Center for Strategic Studies, thank you so much for your precious input and for being our guest for today. And that was our program dedicated to the visit by Uzbek President Shavkat Mirziyoyev to Egypt and his meetings with President Abdel Fattah Sisi. I'm Mahisi Rabia, signing off. Many thanks for watching.